This is your girl, Dr. Dangerfield.
And I am Dr. Patience.
And guess what, y'all? This is the month of August. Y'all should be proud of us.
Hello.
Because usually we take a break in June and y'all don't see us for probably about 3 to 6 months. But we're staying on top of it. Can you believe it? We told y'all we're going to take a break for July.
Yep.
And we're back at it.
That's
So
all we did.
that's all we did.
Yeah.
So please applaud us for showing up.
For showing up. We missed y'all anyway. We couldn't
Yeah, we did. We
stay
couldn't
away
go.
too long.
We couldn't.
Mm-hmm. So we're excited today. Tell
Yeah.
them we're excited today.
You know, August is Black Business Month and National Wellness Month. And what better way to have to kick off this month than have a conversation about Black business, entrepreneurship, and mental health.
Of course.
So, you know, we'd like to bring guests.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so we're gonna let our guest introduce herself and tell us a little bit about what she do, and then we'll get into the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh,
Happy
yeah.
to be here. I'll try not to cut up too much.
Oh, no,
Just a little razzle dazzle for the people.
It took you long. We should have you here a long time.
Right. We're so
No,
glad
it's
you're
okay.
here.
It's okay. I am Dr. Paquita Pullen. I'm a licensed professional counselor, I'm really a counselor educator,
Mm-hmm.
licensed professional counselor. I'm an assistant professor at Belmont. I teach psychology. What else do I do? I'm a yoga instructor.
She does a lot,
I
child.
am the president of the Tennessee Licensed Professional Counsel Association, the first Black one.
Yeah.
And what else? And I got to practice.
Can we talk about the business?
And I have a group practice, which honestly has grown tremendously. Like I started it in 2020,
Mm-hmm.
which is quite interesting because April 20th, 2020, I still remember that. And it started with little old me and my assistant, and now I have 8 people under me.
Wow, that's great.
So I have me, my assistant is still with me 3 years later. I have not ran her off yet. and we have 7 clinicians,
Well, that's great.
all clinicians of color.
Yeah.
So I do that. So I do a lot of things. Like
Yes,
I said,
you do.
You do
yeah,
a lot of
that's
things.
who I am.
Yes.
Well, that's not who I am,
Yeah.
that's what I do.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a whole other topic. Yeah.
That's a great segue.
Yeah. So,
Yes. Into that whole entrepreneur blurring lines, mental health of like, that's not who I am, that's what I do.
For sure.
so the first question is, how do you keep that separated? Like, yes, you're an entrepreneur, but you also are a woman, a Black woman. How do you keep that separated where it doesn't take over life?
Yeah, sure. Like I think that, like many things, right? Like it's really a spectrum and it's a journey, and it depends on where I am in my life, how easy it is, and maybe how much more difficult it is. But one of the biggest things that I can say that has helped me too is mentorship. Believe it or not, because I'll get in my own head, right? Because I'm doing a lot of different things. It's like, okay, I got to show up like this, and then I'll need people from the outside to say something. So something that I've been kind of thinking about lately, kind of to that same point that you're talking about, the intersectionality. Is someone said there's a difference between ministry and business, and you don't want to confuse the two. And I was like, that's a whole word.
It is.
And what I realized is I think that not by defining that is sometimes how it gets muddled. And it's so like I want to show up as a Black woman, right? And sometimes it's more along the lines of ministry, but then I get it mixed up in business or different things like that. So that's one way, is like that mentorship, so I can get that perspective. And the other piece is each day I really show up and I'm like, what do I need to be and who do I need to be today?
Okay.
Like I try to like be intentional about it.
Okay.
And almost like a cost, what do we call it? What is it?
Cost
Cost benefit
Analysis.
Cost benefit analysis. Because I think when it comes to that intersectional, because I am a Black woman, like I am a woman of faith, I am a leader, I am all of these things. Sometimes for me the question has to be, what part of me am I willing to sacrifice today, kind of for the greater good. Like my pastor said something recently. What did he say? My pastor always says something. What did he say? Don't let your response reflect like the greater, like bigger picture, basically, right? So it's like if I have to show up as black first in business today, right? And that means I have to sacrifice something else. Is that my larger reality?
Okay.
Does that make sense? So
That makes sense.
It's
Yeah.
basically let your response reflect your larger reality.
Okay.
And so in the moment though, especially when I'm hungry, angry,
So when you get angry, all of those things,
when
you have to halt.
when I'm all of those things, my response doesn't always reflect the larger reality, right? Because in that moment, I'm feeling really, you know, like, you know, and then it gets blurred. So I think just really some intentionality and surrounding myself with people that kind of remind you of who you are and remind you that like you can put it down or you don't have to be that today or you can do something different. I think that is really helpful and been drawn from my ancestors lately. You know,
Okay.
it's like
I'm noticing the shirt.
Yeah.
I love it.
you know,
Yeah.
but I mean seriously looking at their examples of leadership, but not just looking at like the bells and whistles that we see, right, when we hear that, but like really looking at their stories and how they
Their
had to
journeys.
navigate that. So like that's been really, really helpful. My friends laugh at me because I swear I am like a direct descendant of Harriet. I swear. I can't prove it. I haven't
But it's
proof, but
somewhere.
one day I would, but I feel it. Like I'm
Yeah.
telling you all, like
Her spirit.
I feel it. Like it is something deep within that I'm like, you know. So just looking to those that have gone before us, I
Yeah.
think helps as well.
Oh man, that's good.
Thank you.
So
girl.
tell
I
us,
try to be-
what's on the names on the shirt? 'Cause I can't see the
All right,
last
so we
sentence.
got Harriet and Rosa and Maya and Oprah and Michelle, and then it says leadership. Hashtag leadership goals.
I love that. I was like, can't see the bottom. What does it say?
Leadership goals.
I love that.
So, yeah.
So one thing, I got the opportunity to do a presentation to some female entrepreneurs, and
Okay.
one of the things we talked about a lot was kind of how mental health and mental wellness, right, shows up in these spaces for us. And so, as a clinician as well as an entrepreneur, what mental health things do you see most frequently? Maybe in yourself, in your peers, in us,
And you know to call it out.
Exactly.
No, the biggest thing that I think the biggest thing, because also when I was with clients, I was always working with high functioning, anxious black women. So all of my clients had master's degrees, like they were doctors, they were teachers, they were like, you know, all of these different things. So the biggest thing that I see is anxiety. That's how it manifests though, right? But once you start getting deeper, you see a lot of those other things like self-worth, misinformation. That is a big one that people don't tend to think about mental health, meaning like, well, you're supposed to do this, and this is how you're supposed to think, and this is what you're supposed to do, and you can't do this.
Other people's things.
Other people's things, and so you see a lot of this like tension, right? Especially for leaders of color, because a lot of times we've been trained on this Eurocentric model
Way
that
too
does
lean.
not align with who we are naturally. So it creates this incongruence, which then manifests like anxiety. Right.
That makes sense.
And then a lot of, so then you see a lot of irritability, you see a lot of exhaustion, you see a lot of apathy. You know, just like, I don't care, like what's the difference anyway? You know what I mean? Like different things like that. So I've seen a lot of that. On some ends, definitely you can see some of that depression and how it shows up because of things aren't working out the way that you want them to. There's a lot of sacrifice to be a leader, to be in business.
Yes.
And you know that saying that people say is like, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
That's
I
not
call
true.
BS 100%.
That is not true.
100. That is
Wait,
not
if you're
true.
going around saying that, stop.
Please
That is
stop
not
saying
true.
that.
It costs you something.
It costs you something. It definitely does. And so what happens is that because you love it, you still show up and you do it, and that pulls you through. You know, one of my things that helps me, especially on my rough mental health days, as it relates to these things, is, you know, say, God, let discipline kick in when motivation is not there. Because sometimes I'm not motivated to do it. I'm telling y'all, the other day I said, I could probably go open up a margarita stand on the beach.
And be okay.
And I can call it Dr. PQ so that I still get to have it and leave it at that and be okay. You know what I mean? So I think it's that love and that passion, that action. If anything, you actually work harder. You actually expend more. You give more because it is that thing that you love. So for me, and my mental health journey with all of this, a lot of time is anxiety. And what I'm learning about myself, and maybe other people have, or maybe you all could allude to this as well, is because I want to do a good job though. That's what I've started to, I missed that shift in my leadership. I think my anxiety used to be like, oh my gosh, I don't want to mess up. Oh my gosh, like they're going to criticize me. What if they think I don't know anything? This little black girl from Nashville, Tennessee with a big name. You know, I look 16, so people, so then I got that layer.
I know what you're talking about.
You know what I mean? Like all of those things. But it's like, I want to do such a good job, like a genuine good job. But that takes cost sometimes too, right? So there's been days where like I have something big coming up or creating something and I'm just anxious the whole day. Forget to eat. Forgot to eat, stomach is hurting, got a headache, like very little tolerance for like anything else. Then it comes, right? And it's like, oh.
All that work.
All that work.
That was it. But if you don't have that awareness, right? And what I've seen is that a lot of people don't have that awareness, and when you're constantly in that state, right, and you don't really know how to navigate it, then that's when we start getting into more serious problems. That's why people quit. That's why people give up. That's why businesses start, you start operating out of survival mode.
Right,
Which
and then you
in
see
my
a change in the
opinion,
flow
you see
of the way the
you
business
also
is
see
running.
some shady stuff.
That's true.
So people are no longer living aligned to their values as it relates to business, right? And you'll mess around and do some stuff you didn't think you'd ever do, you know, when you get like that. And so there have been, I mean, I'll be honest, there have been times I'm like, well, I'm just gonna do this. You know what I mean? Because it's the easiest thing. But then, you know, I have to come back and say, is this the anxiety? Is this the exhaustion? Is this the burnout? Is this the fear?
What is really
showing up? And like, how do you know? So I just show up anyway. And I realize everybody can't do, and sometimes like, how do I keep
showing up?
Harriet?
Because they do not appreciate it. They are not appreciated.
You know somebody complained.
That's why she had to pull the gun out a couple times.
You know somebody trying to tell her what she needs to do, what she shouldn't be doing. I'm telling you, that's my new hashtag. That's the Harriet.
That's the Harriet. You know, I really think that there's something to that because I like, especially like the anxiety is what is like surface, right? That's where you start. That gets you in the door. That gets you to see us, right? And what we end up realizing is, I was saying this is such a big thing, is that sense of identity, right? Understanding who you are. Because that lack of not knowing yourself, you don't recognize when all of these things start to show up. You don't, like, I'm not myself today. I am not being me. What is it? Let me go through my checklist. Is it my social wellness? Have I been hanging around? Have I been spending time with family and friends? Is it my, spiritual self? What am I doing to be that? But if we are not taking, if we're not starting with the step of understanding who we are, that is how we can get wrapped in all
these other things.
Exactly, and that's why I try to start with people.
And then you mess around though and start over-identifying with the anxiety. You start over-identifying with the shame. You start over-identifying with the feelings.
That becomes more of who you are, how you're showing up.
Exactly, because now that's the way that I'm supposed to. So you are absolutely correct. Like, you have to know and stick true, and that's something that I have done with my practice. Is that I'm like, this is what I value. You know, even as I shift, and if you base it on what you value and who you are when you shift, right, the way that it manifests looks a little bit differently, but it stays the same.
Because it's still tied to your why.
Exactly, and your
purpose. And your purpose.
For sure.
So important. So y'all, figure out who you are. I mean, entrepreneurship is great, but if you're in that thing trying to be everybody else and be everyone else's business,
it burns you out.
Exactly.
It'll take you to burn out really quickly.
It'll tell you a lie and then you won't do it again. I mean, seriously too. And you won't do it again, and then that's when that depression comes in, and right, because I feel like I have something deep inside of me, but I went out and tried to do something
And it
else,
didn't work,
and it
yeah.
didn't work. So now it must not work. So you have to know who you are before you become an entrepreneurship. If you become an entrepreneur trying to figure it out, because it'll bring up some stuff. I'm telling you.
Entrepreneurship is probably one of the best personal development, self-awareness journeys that you can be on, because it brings out you. A lot of people, like you said, will hide behind being an entrepreneur because they don't know who they are, but it brings out more of who they are. And it's like, oh, that's me.
Good, bad, and indifferent.
Yeah, because I've been thinking the other day, and something that we don't talk a lot about is like, what does attachment style look like in entrepreneurship? And I had to be honest. I was like, well, I know what my attachment style is. How has it helped me and how has it hindered me? And I was like, oh, when you get tired of people, you just
it's time to go.
remove yourself.
Throw them up.
Good day, sir.
And I'm like, so has that been good? Has that been not so good? And I'm like, I was like, some business relationships, people be like, what happened? I was like, you know what, I got tired of it. Or it just didn't work. And I was like, that's my attachment style, that like being independent, that sense of freedom, wanting to know, because it's like, people's like, why don't you have a group practice? I don't want group practice. I want to work it by myself.
I get it.
But I mean, exactly to what we just said, you have to know what you want to do.
Yeah.
I remember when I first started my practice, and one of the things, I got so tired of the narrative that black people don't go to therapy. Because I'm like, I'm black, I'm therapy. I know 6, 7, 10 other people that go. Like, I knew that. And so for me, it's like, it's not always what you see, it's what you don't see. Right? So I went there, especially being in Nashville, Tennessee. I was born and raised here, so I could talk about it.
You know the climate. You know the climate.
Right. But I started looking at all these counselor practices, and I'm like, well, what's missing from the picture?
Somebody that looks like.
What was important to me was I wanted to be unapologetically black. And that book, we can talk about how that impacts your leadership and entrepreneurship as well. So if you go to my website, right, I got my box braids in on top of my head in a bun. I'm in the civil rights room at the library. You got a mug shot of John Lewis in the back. And I was so proud of Africa's on my shirt, in yellow. And that because my vision and my purpose for my business was to be unapologetically black. I wanted black people to see, like, there's practices. And there's people and clinicians that want to talk to you, that want to help you.
About who you
and
are.
I remember someone saying, people are going to go to your website and think you're militant. And I said, militant? Because I got a mugshot of John C. Lewis in the back. But you won't see it. And so again, this was very early on as well. So I had shame. I had shame about that for about 4 or 5 days. Like just sitting in the pit of my stomach, right? Like, do I change it? Do I, not do this and all that? But I had to come back to your point of this is who I am and what I've been called to do. And if somebody comes and they says that I'm militant, I'm probably not the clinician for them.
Right.
And I'm not militant, but I'm gonna get you together real quick.
We're gonna have a conversation.
But you want to know what is wild? For that first year and a half, everyone that we asked, so what made you reach out to Dr. Pullen? I wasn't a doctor at the time, but I'm a doctor now. So what made you reach out to Dr. Pullen? I was like, your website. Your website. Your website. Like, I mean, we heard that over and over and over again. They're like, the word you chose, the picture you chose, everything was intentional. And we did not just attract black clients. We had white clients, cisgender, transgender, LGBT, like
because they see that it was inclusive. It's like,
exactly.
she gets the journey, she gets the struggle, she gets the whole thing. So they are more open, like 100%. As opposed to looking at a website where there's no diversity at all, are looking and think like, do they?
Right, but I also think people are so tired of cookie cutter and
and our profession is one that will try to keep you in a box.
They sure will. They told me. Right, they were like, well, if you're going to go in private practice and you want to be successful, you're probably going to have to work on weekends and in the evening. I have not worked an evening or weekend in 3+ years. And remember, all of my clients were in medical school. They had master's degrees. They were teachers. They had
They-
full-time jobs.
they
my
will come.
hours were 10, 11, 12,
Mhm.
and 1.
Yep.
And I stayed full.
Mhm.
And I stayed full in different things, you know, like that.
Yeah.
So it is really key to not only just know who you are, I think you also got to trust who you are.
Oh,
Because
yeah,
some
most
people know
definitely.
who they are, but they
They
don't,
don't trust who
it
they are.
because they're putting their trust in other people.
What other people are telling them are the expectations of others.
Mhm. And you gotta weed that out, because what I realized is that the people who said I was gonna be militant, right, or the people that was like, oh, are you sure? Somebody asked me if it was discrimination. I'm like, well, am I discriminating? Because I mean, it's just me in box braids.
Wait a minute now.
My ancestors are from Africa, like I don't, you know. And so, you know, but it's just like, well, I have to trust me. And so for me, I'd rather be authentic and trust me and fail than be somebody else
And trusting somebody else's
Exactly.
method.
that I'm like that. I can't
Yeah.
sleep at night
Mhm.
knowing that I
Yeah.
listen to you.
And then what you
And-
It didn't do what you knew that was true to your heart.
Right, because eventually you come right back around to who you should be.
Mm-hmm. Who were you at the
somewhere?
Who were you? Who were you?
at some point?
Yeah,
Who are you?
absolutely.
Because your true identity is going to show up eventually. Because the resistance
Mhm.
of trying to fit in somebody else's box, you keep hitting up against, and you finally come to a point where you're like, that's uncomfortable.
Mhm.
So I am going to be me,
Yep.
regardless.
Agreed.
I mean, you have to.
Yeah.
And you're gonna do it successfully in your business, or you're gonna do it successfully somewhere else.
Yeah, that's so true.
And-
Right, so you gotta choose.
And
so to
the
speak,
funny
what you want
thing
to do it.
is when you think about, when you ask somebody, well, why did you decide to be an entrepreneur? For freedom.
Mhm.
It's time freedom, and so I can do what I want.
Mhm.
But you doing what you want, trying to fit in somebody else's box. So are you really
Doing what
doing what you want?
The question you have to ask yourself.
Mhm. Because you're trying to fit in. You want that freedom, but you're boxing yourself into
Mhm.
prison and constraint.
Right, which again manifests as all of these struggles, right? This
Mhm.
anxiety, this depression, this low self-worth, this perfectionism,
Mhm.
you know, and
Yeah.
I realize
Trying
that
to get it right.
sometimes that inner critic,
Mhm.
right?
Worst.
Imposter syndrome. Of
Mhm.
course you feel like an imposter, you're not following your own
You're not being
recipe.
yourself.
You're not being
Which is
yourself.
draining.
Which
And make
means
you
you are being an
exhausted.
imposter
Mhm.
when you're not being yourself.
Exactly. So yeah, so you start to see a lot of those things.
Mhm.
So I think too, that is, we do say freedom and to do what we want, but that's also the cost that people need to understand
Mhm.
about
That comes at cost.
entrepreneurship, right? Is that you don't pay something, right? Just make sure that that's the check you want to cash.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
For sure.
I feel like I can't let our time go without bringing this up because I see so much of this. And it's in this narrative, which will probably go back to what you were talking about earlier, is the myth that you have to be burnt out, you have to be exhausted, you have to be tired, which to me, this is me, is a double-edged sword when you
Mhm.
have society also labeling you as a strong black woman
Mhm.
or black girl magic or whatever are these things. And so in order for all of this to happen, I have to be, burnout is par for the course. Burnout is required as an entrepreneur. You're supposed to not be sleeping. You're supposed to miss meals. You're supposed to, and then you're black, and then you're strong, and then you're a woman. And
That
then-
grind.
Yes, and you gotta wear all
That
these hats, and you
hustle,
gotta show up as a great wife, a great mother, a great friend, a great partner, a great, all these
Everything.
things. And the narrative you start to believe and sell
Mhm.
yourself is like this burnout, this strong, this magic
Mhm.
is par for the course. This is just how I'm supposed to be living. Within all of these things show up. So how do you help yourself, help me, help others manage that strong black woman narrative, the myth of burnout when they are in this entrepreneur role?
Absolutely. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head though with that it is a myth. And so the first thing is, right, is one, being an entrepreneur, even as a black woman as well, is not a monolithic experience.
Right.
So when we say strong black woman, when we say burned out, and this is what it's supposed to be, that is already, that's putting us in another box and saying that it's monolithic. Strong for you, some of the things that you need to be strong in, right, and what will actually be strength to you. So like saying no, right, going to sleep,
Exactly.
Mhm.
date nights with your, partner, going to church, like all of those things, that might really be a sign of strength for you. That might not be the sign of strength for me,
Right.
right? Depending on our season, depending on where we are. So I think the first thing is just anxiety is a master manipulator, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's how I feel like strong black woman schema and burnout is they're master manipulators. So the first thing I have to do, and that I encourage everyone to do, is that call out your manipulators. Because when you call them out, they stop manipulating. You ever had somebody in real life try to manipulate you?
And when you call them out, they like, oh,
or
you got me.
And they move on to somebody else.
Yes.
I mean, or the same thing, like we've seen that happen to other people, right? You've seen somebody manipulating somebody else, but they would not dare ask you or try it because they know you're gonna stand up, you know? And so burnout, strong black woman, those are myths, right? If you are burned out, you really want to think like you're probably not doing it your way.
Right.
You probably need a break, right? And you probably actually need to bring more of yourself into it and let that strong black woman schema go, which is a sign of strength. Ask for support. If you're running your business by yourself, you are on the road to burnout.
Yeah, get you some.
You need support.
Yeah.
You need help. You need people working in your business. You need people working on your business. You need people. When I go on vacation, I don't have to have my phone. I don't have to do all of those things because I have built a team that knows what they need to do. You know what I mean? And so support, I think is the biggest thing. But I think that's also the antithesis of what we have been conditioned to think entrepreneurship is. So I'm here to say support.
I love that. I think that's the part too. So what I'm hearing you say is like, ask for help.
Yeah. In the simplest terms. You just said.
And receive help.
Oh, yeah.
And receive help.
When you
Because
ask,
sometimes people
receive it.
ask for it.
And they don't want to receive it. You said
Right,
it.
and then sometimes help shows up for you even when you didn't ask. And then I feel black women have a real problem with accepting generosity and help. Per my experience.
Not used to it.
Yes.
We're not used to
Not
it. And
used
so
to
get uncomfortable. Let it be uncomfortable, but take the help anyway.
Yeah.
Because in the long run, right, like that help will actually strengthen you.
Yeah.
Yes.
It'll actually strengthen you.
I love that. So guys, it's okay. We can ask for help. Somebody just told me that they have a problem with that. I do. I'm working on it. She speaks to me as she speaks to you. Okay.
Stop that.
So is there any final thoughts, Dr. Quita, because we're going with that you want to leave our viewers with, leave us with about entrepreneurship, leadership, being a black woman, and we're in your mental health? I think we have to definitely
And then
leave
mental
that
health.
in there.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is value authentic exchanges over everything else, right? Like, I mean, that's where I'm at in my life, and so that's what I offer to everyone. If it's authentic and you fail, so what? You can sleep at night.
Yeah.
I promise
Because
you can.
it's truly you.
Right? But it will also teach you something, you know, so fortify yourself, but fortify you, not your representative, right? Or what somebody else says. So just, you know, chase authentic exchanges, and I believe, and it has been my experience, that everything else falls into place.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Right.
Show up unapologetically you.
Yes.
I love that.
100%.
In all,
I
in
love
all spaces.
In all spaces.
Yes.
Well, we can't let you leave without telling our viewers about how they can find you and your services. So where can we find you? Where can they locate you?
All right, you can locate me in these streets.
Doing all the right
quite a bit of places.
Plane, train, automobile.
Yes, I'm at Belmont, but you can reach me at my website. What is my website?
Okay.
www.ubuntucounseling/ no, that's a dash, not slash.
Dash.
Wellness.com is the easiest way. Sending us an email is the easiest way because my assistant
There it
fills
is.
my emails
Uh-huh.
and answers the one that she can and sends the one to me that she doesn't.
Okay. There
We're
we go.
pro to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the best way to reach me is via email through my website.
Okay, what if they want to follow you? Are you on social media?
I am on social media. I am not the best at social media, but I would love for you all to follow me. That might encourage me to do something. So you can find me at Ubuntu Counseling. I think it's just Ubuntu Counseling.
Okay,
At
on
Ubuntu Counseling
IG?
on Instagram and Facebook.
There you go.
You'll know it's her because you'll see her smiling face
You will.
in the profile.
You will.
So then you'll know you're at the right one.
Sunflowers and Mickey Mouse.
Right, you know it's her. That's her.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being with us
Thank
today.
you for
That was
having me.
amazing.
As always.
Yes, if you all have any questions, comments, please put those in the comment section. We will get those to her. We will field those our made-up assistant, which is us. We'll do that.
Our sisters.
You gonna get an assistant. I'm a client.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, we are so glad that you all are with us today. We are excited about having Dr. Paquita with us. And so if you are looking to follow us, which we hope you already are, but tell a friend if you need to share.
If you're not following us now.
Exactly. How can they find you, Dr. Dangerfield?
On Instagram at I am Dr. Dangerfield.
You can find me at I am Dr. Patience, and you can find us both at
I am Brown Girl Banter on Instagram. And then on YouTube, hopefully this is where you're finding us at. You can subscribe, like, share. It's Brown Girl, one word, space, banter.
That's where you find us. Like, subscribe, share, comment. We appreciate you. You all have a wonderful day. Thank you again. Bye, Brown Girl Banter.
Bye.